Who are the biggest dynasty risers and fallers over the past month? Find out this and more on today's Locked On Dynasty.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Matt Williamson and Ryan McDowell.
Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. This episode is brought to you by Brightco Jewelry and Watch Insurance. Brightco brings you comprehensive, fast, and affordable jewelry insurance for as low as $5 per month. Check out your special offer for Locked On listeners and get covered in under 2 minutes at bright.co/locked on. That's bright.co/locked on. Welcome to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan McDowell. You can follow me on Twitter at RyanMC23. Joining me, as always, is Matt Williamson. Find Matt on Twitter at WilliamsonNFL. Matt, we are 1 day away. We're almost there.
NFL opening day eve. Happy opening NFL day eve. That just doesn't flow off the tongue. We'll have to work on that, but I am psyched. I've been really digging. I've been loving this week because I've been looking at individual matchups of games, like how they're going to block Aaron Donald, that kind of stuff, as opposed to, is this team going to be better, blah, 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 draft stuff. I couldn't be more excited.
I'm ready for it as well. We definitely have a fun one in the opener tomorrow. It feels great to say that's tomorrow. Bills and Rams. That'll be a fun game for sure. As we talked about yesterday, we are into regular season mode here. We talked dynasty transactions on yesterday's show, and every Wednesday we're talking dynasty player value. So there's a couple ways we like to do that here on Locked On Dynasty. We'll talk updated ADP. That's what we're going to do today. We have brand new September ADP. I guess our last little bit of preseason dynasty ADP. That will be one topic, and we'll also mix in some of those dynasty value studies. We love to do those because we know players will be changing. We'll see their value changing throughout the season in both directions. We like to keep track of that, so we'll do those dynasty value studies. We'll talk ADP. We'll talk trades and everything else that goes into player value in dynasty leagues. As I said, though, today we're focused on that new September ADP. We just snuck it in before the season began. So we've got our top fives at each position, and we had a little bit of this conversation. Matt? I guess that was last week when we were projecting future ADP. I think that was just last week. So a lot of these names we've already kind of mentioned. We're going to go through them pretty quickly. Top 5 quarterbacks. This is, again, September DLF Dynasty ADP. Not many surprises here. We've got Josh Allen at the top. He's been the quarterback one for much of the offseason, according to our ADP. Justin Herbert did move up to number 2. I thought that was interesting. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray are your 3, 4, and 5 quarterbacks, rounding out that top 5. And I know, again, we talked about this a little bit last week, but if there's one of these guys you expect to fall, it sounds like it might be Kyler Murray.
Sort of. I mean, he's number 2 in my redraft ranks.
Okay.
So I stole this from Dwayne McFarland that he might be the only guy in the league that could do 5,000 through the air, 1,000 on the ground. I mean, I'm not sure Allen could get there with the ground. I'm not sure Jackson could get there in the air, but I don't love the organization, the Cardinals organization, and I think they could be in for a rockier season than people want to admit. Yeah. So I would gladly buy him at that 5 spot, to be honest with you. And I think Herbert's on the path to be in that Allen and Mahomes conversation in terms of how good are they in the real world. But I wish he ran a little bit more, and I don't think running is going to be a huge part of his game.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he'll be adding that, and really, honestly, doesn't have to from a real life standpoint. And of course, that's all the Chargers care about. Let's look at the running backs. Jonathan Taylor at the top. We've got a new RB2. It's been Najee Harris for really a few months in a row now. It's DeAndre Swift. He's the new RB2.
So who are the top two?
Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Taylor, then Swift. You love this.
I haven't been able to do that in a while, right? Taylor Swift at the top. Gotta love it. Haven't been able to do that in a while.
Taylor and Swift, 1 and 2. Najee Harris is still the RB3. 4, we get one of those veterans in there. Christian McCaffrey still hanging on, and Javonte Williams, the player that you projected to be the RB1 a year from now, is currently the RB5. How far does McCaffrey fall out of this group? Could he even fall out of the top 10 with so many young running backs?
I mean, any injury of any sort destroys his stock, I would assume.
Oh, yeah. There's already so many doubters. It does seem like there's more McCaffrey doubters in redraft than in Dynasty, which feels a little weird. I know he's pretty much been a top 2 pick in most redraft leagues that I've seen. But still, you hear a lot of, he's been injured. He hasn't played in 2 years. I don't want him. You hear that more, it seems like, in those seasonal leagues. Top 5 wide receivers, Jefferson and Chase are your top 2, as they have been really for months. They've flip-flopped a little bit. It's Jefferson, then Chase this month. CeeDee Lamb locking down that 3 spot. And after that is where you get some change from month to month. This month, it is A.J. Brown at 4, Cooper Kupp at 5. And there's some people getting excited about that Philadelphia Eagles offense and the team in general. They're suddenly feeling like one of the favorites in the NFC, Matt.
Yeah, actually on Peacock and Williamson yesterday, we did our prediction show. I was really tempted to take the Eagles to the Super Bowl. I didn't, but I was very tempted to. I am all in on this team. And my takeaway from this top 5 is Lamb should be entrenched as the number 3.
Well, I feel like he pretty much is. And I think for a lot of people, that's kind of, almost by default that he's the best young wide receiver. And maybe Kupp out produces him this year, but he's the best combination of proven and still young. And I guess you could argue that's A.J. Brown or some of these other guys. But it's been Lamb. Yeah, it's been Lamb at that 3 spot for a while now. Top 5 tight ends. We had this conversation last week too, that these top 5 tight ends are the same top 5 from a year ago, a different order. So again, no surprises. Pitts, Andrews, Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller. The only argument I would have is I would flip Kittle and Kelsey. Other than that, I think that's just what everyone expected. And I did pull the top 5 rookies according to our Dynasty ADP. Breece Hall at the top, Drake London at 2, Kenneth Walker at 3, Chris Olave at 4, and your boy George Pickens is a top 5 rookie based on this ADP at this point. So he's the big mover, and we might talk a little bit more about him later in the episode. So those are your top 5 players from each position, along with the top 5 rookies. In the rest of this episode, we're going to continue to look at that ADP. We'll talk about the top 5 risers, the players who have gained value from August to September, and the players going the other direction, losing value over the past month. We'll do that right after this.
So imagine you're like proposing to your future wife and you're on one knee at the beach and you pull the ring out and she's super excited and you're jumping around, but then you drop the ring and the waves comes in. It's like, oh, no, what happened here? Or you're up on some kind of, high thing, a beautiful setup and the ring slips, bounces around, boom, there, you lose it. So you don't want to be that guy. And you certainly don't want it splattered all over the internet and everyone laughing at you. So the folks at Brightco Jewelry Insurance will make sure you get a replacement for the full value of the ring if that happened to you, no matter if it's lost, stolen, or you just can't figure out what happened to it. Go to bright.co/locked on. It's the fastest and easiest way to cover your butt with the best jewelry insurance in the business. These guys at Brightco are geniuses. They made buying insurance for your engagement ring, your watch, or whatever is so easy. You can get covered in 2 minutes just on your cell phone. You won't find a better deal on great coverage that's super affordable. bright.co/locked on. We all hate insurance, though, right? But these guys at Brightco turned the whole experience around. So it's probably the easiest thing you can do for yourself this week. No excuses. For $5 a month, you get a totally comprehensive coverage, and it won't take you more than 2 minutes on your cell phone. Check it out, bright.co/locked on. It's just one of those things. I mean, jewelry is so small and easy to misplace. That's something you just have to do, is bright.co/locked on. I have told you also about our friends over at Prize Picks, and I think this is a goldmine, to be honest with you. I mean, when you do battle with others that you never know who they're going to pick in daily fantasy or anything like that, but Prize Picks, it works so much easier in that you pick between 2 and 5 players, and you go and check out if they'll score more than their Prize Pick projection. And hey, with all respect to those guys, there's times you, me, whoever might know more about the situation than the people at Prize Picks, which sets you up to win a lot of money. You can win up to 10 times your money on an entry, which is amazing. No competing against other people. It's just you versus projections. You know the number you have to hit or get under. It's easy enough. And here's where I think you can make big bucks too. And not only is it NFL, of course, and I think I do great there, and I'm excited to dig in. NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey, PGA, college hoops, college women's hoops, soccer. But how about sports like boxing, cricket, esports, MMA, where you may have more knowledge than those people setting the lines, and that just sets up for wins. 60 seconds or less to make the entry, safe and fast withdrawals. Download the Prize Pick app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users get 100% instant deposit match up to $100 if you use our promo code Locked On, all one word, all caps. So if you put in $100, Prize Picks gives you $100. Put in $50, Prize Picks gives you $50. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On and sign up for an instant deposit matchup up to $100.
We are back. We're talking September Dynasty ADP from Dynasty League Football.com. This data that we're talking about today will be on the site very soon, so consider this a sneak preview. We hit the top 5 from each position to start the show. Now we're going to talk about players who have gained value, and I'm looking forward to this, Matt, because a lot of these players we've somehow overlooked over the past few weeks. They haven't come up in conversation yet. So let's do that now. The number one riser, this probably won't be a surprise to anyone. Number one riser from August to September is Dameon Pierce. He's up 39 spots in our ADP. So we're talking about over 3 rounds, moving up 61 overall. The rookie for the Texans, of course, impressed in preseason. Earned the RB1 job there in Houston. And I mean, we knew the opportunity was going to be there. And I know it's just been preseason, but it looks like he's made the most of it. Marlon Mack is out of the way, now cut twice in the past week. So he's gone. What are your expectations for Dameon Pierce this year, as well as from a dynasty standpoint?
I love him. I mean, he was my dynasty 3rd running back in rookie draft. So I've been high on him from the start. I love his style of play. In my home league, it's a redraft over the weekend. He went in the 4th round. I thought that was a little rich, but wow. My only concern, and this is more of a short-term concern than big picture, is non-receiving running backs. I know he can catch the ball, but he's not a great receiver. And bad offenses are a bad investment.
Yeah, and I mentioned that ADP of 61 overall, so we're talking about an early 6th rounder. And in fact, I think, if you check the ADP, I've been playing some underdog drafts and some of those things, but his redraft ADP is probably higher than his dynasty ADP at this point. Yeah. And you mentioned the lack of pass catching. I guess we'll see how that plays out, but it's not expected to be a big part of his game. I mean, I think about a guy like Elijah Mitchell, who was a late round draft pick. And despite a really impressive rookie season for the 49ers last year, we didn't see his value go crazy. So I wonder if that's kind of where we see Pierce a year from now, even if he has an impressive rookie season. Maybe he's not an RB1. Maybe he's not a top 10 dynasty running back like some of the players we were talking about earlier. I just wonder if this is kind of the just about the highest we see Pierce's value get, regardless of what he shows on the field.
Maybe. I mean, as you were saying that, I was sitting here thinking, like, he might have to have a offensive rookie of the year type season to really increase in value.
Yeah, absolutely. The number 2 riser up 20 spots. Actually, the next 3 players were each up 20 spots. So I guess they're tied for the second highest gainer. Gabriel Davis is the first one, though. He's up to 52 overall. This is another player consistently that has been valued higher in redraft leagues than in Dynasty, which is really interesting given that he's 23 years old, I believe. He's on one of the top offenses in the league. I mean, traditionally, Dynasty managers chase this kind of player and overvalue this type of player. So there seems to be a real disconnect when it comes to Gabriel Davis. And I mean, part of that is that he's had chunk production, right? I mean, we all remember that playoff game with 4 touchdowns. And he's kind of gone on hot streaks over the past couple of years, his first couple of years in the league, but he hasn't put it together consistently. Of course, now we have Emmanuel Sanders out of the way. We've got Cole Beasley out of the way. Those guys are gone. I know there's, of course, Stephon Diggs still is the top guy there in Buffalo, but it looks like it's time for Gabe Davis to shine.
Yeah, I am shocked that the Dynasty community hasn't gone overboard on this guy. I mean, but I don't love him. I mean, I think it's about situation more than player, and I try to avoid those things when I invest in Dynasty players. I think he's Alvin Harper. He's not Michael Irvin.
Yeah, you said that here before. I'm coming around. I was kind of probably with you, but I'm starting to believe in the player, and maybe it is situation. But as long as he's in that situation, I don't think Josh Allen's going anywhere.
Right.
So that situation in Buffalo as the second option there has to be a big part of his value. Ramondre Stevenson is the number 3 riser, or as I said, I guess tied with Davis. He's also up 20 spots. 74 is his new ADP, and that is by far his highest ADP. In fact, actually, last month when he was 94, that was the highest, and he's jumped 20 more spots. We've heard the talk about Stevenson, that he's potentially even overtaking Damian Harris. I think most Dynasty players are looking at Harris as a floor play and Stevenson as the ceiling. And I'm starting to think maybe that's how the Patriots are seeing it as well.
I think he's much more talented than Harris. I think he's a much better receiver. He's younger. I don't know when Harris will return. I just hate how they use their backs there. That's the only negative I can come up with the guy.
Yeah, we did see, let's see, Kevin Harris was one of they brought in 3 rookies, I believe. Kevin Harris got released. One of them ended up on the injured reserve, I believe. So the group got thinned out a little bit. We'll see what happens.
Ty Montgomery's still looming a little bit, though.
Ty Montgomery, true. Maybe a pass catcher there. Next one, interesting. Russell Wilson up 20 spots. I don't know, honestly, what this is all about. Nothing really has changed. Of course, it's changed over the offseason, but in the past month, nothing has changed in Russell Wilson's situation. We are, I think, expecting a big jump for him in production over the full season, right? I mean, Wilson has been that inconsistent player. Once the back half of the season gets there, Seattle wants to run the ball only, and Wilson's numbers go down. So I think that changes, but I guess I'm surprised to see him as one of our top risers. He also is up 20 spots to 90 overall. And the last guy here, George Pickens, up 18 spots, 60 overall. Is that too high for Pickens? Would you go even higher? We're talking about the last pick in the 5th round, basically.
Seems about right. I mean, we talked about London and Olave and those guys. They're probably going slightly ahead, but I think he's right in the neighborhood with them.
Yeah, so for reference, other players in that same range as Pickens, Olave is right behind him. Actually, Damian Pierce, who we talked about earlier, is right behind him. So 3 rookies in there together. Allen Robinson is a little bit lower. Garrett Wilson lower. Brandon Ayuk, Treylon Burks. Those are all some players that are behind George Pickens. You probably wouldn't argue too much with that one. So I could actually see him going a little bit higher. I mean, guys like Fournette, Keenan Allen, Juju Smith-Schuster still ahead of him. So maybe a little bit of room to grow for Pickens, even still at this new ADP. Matt, when we come back, we'll talk about the top 5 fallers, players that have lost dynasty value over the past month.
We have told you over the years a lot about betonline.net, and they certainly are the best source for all your pro and college football betting needs and all the sports information you're looking for this year. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, even podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, live betting, esports, and scores. Fastest and easiest way to check into all your favorite sports and events, including Major League Baseball, of course, MMA, boxing, even golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet online where the game starts. It's the only place I go.
All right, Matt. Well, let's finish up the ADP conversation for September with our fallers. We've talked top 5 at each position, and we talked about those risers, including your favorite guy, George Pickens. If there's big risers, there's got to be big fallers, and these veteran running backs are at the top of the list. Including a couple players that you and I have both been fans of. This hurts a little bit. Miles Sanders down 24 spots. He's the biggest faller of the month. He loses 2 full rounds of value, and he's outside of the top 100 for the first time in a long time. How bad is the deal with Miles Sanders right now?
I'm not sure what he did wrong in the last month, and he's in a contract year, and he's got a lot to play for, which is great and all, but his situation's not great. I don't know. He could easily get washed out after the season.
Right.
I think I'm buying at that price, though. It's probably like an RB3.
Yeah, I'm probably still hanging on. I don't know if I'm buying, but I'm probably not selling at that price. And I think the ADP is really with the first 3 guys that we're going to talk about here. The ADP is kind of caught up. Same. Yeah. Right. They kind of caught up to their trade value. You're right. We should combine all these guys. They have each fallen about 2 rounds. Sanders down 24 spots. Antonio Gibson down 22 spots. And David Montgomery also down 22 spots. In a couple of these cases, Gibson and Montgomery, we saw them practicing with the special teams at times during camp and preseason. That's certainly a bad sign. So if you're still buying one of these guys, Sanders, Gibson, Montgomery, which one are you investing in?
At the price, I'll take Sanders because he's the cheapest. I think he's the most talented, and I know Gibson is a height, weight, speed guy, but in terms of pure runner, I'll buy Sanders at that price. He also has the best O-line. I mean, Gibson actually got good news in the last month.
Right. Yeah. Gibson, certainly a big opportunity through the unfortunate situation with Brian Robinson. Robinson, a victim of that attempted carjacking. He'll miss at least 4 games. So as scary as that situation was, ultimately going to give it's going to give Antonio Gibson a big opportunity over the next month or so. David Montgomery is still the most expensive, still 73 overall, despite the 22 spot drop. I'm with you. I'm probably taking Sanders from that group based on cost. A couple of rookie wide receivers round out this list, Matt. Christian Watson down 19 spots, 111 overall. Treylon Burks down 18 spots. He is 67 overall. I don't know. I've had questions about both of these guys through this process, but I like the new ADP for both of them. This is kind of where I'm willing to invest in each of these guys, really, especially Watson. I mean, outside of the top 100, feels like a pretty easy buy.
I thought so, too, because I own no stock of him because I thought he was inflated. And to be honest, not to pat myself on the back, this is kind of how I thought the first couple months of his career would go. He would kind of be swimming or, not getting Rodgers' love early. I mean, he's a raw player that's a height, weight, speed type of dude that could hit big for you in that offense, and there's certainly opportunities. So at the decreased price, I'm all in on that.
Yeah, I am as well. Price very different between those two. Again,
Sure.
Watson outside of the top 100, Burks still valuable, 67 overall. So not going to be cheap is Treylon Burks. And honestly, if a dynasty manager drafted either of those guys here in the past couple months, they're probably not looking to sell low. So I don't know that you're going to get much of a discount on those guys despite the value drop. It's those running backs you might want to shop for if you need some depth at that position. Thanks again for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022, an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. Local team experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus a betting angle from Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets, all combining into one ultimate NFL preview. Search for Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. That will do it for today's show. Please make sure you download and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to the Locked On Dynasty channel on YouTube. And remember to follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Dynasty. Follow Matt at Williamson NFL. And I'm Ryan, MC23. We'll be back next time with more Locked On Dynasty.